Have you ever been watching an episode of Star Trek and thought to yourself, wait a second, haven't I seen this before? Well, the answer is probably. From series to series, we get episode do-overs that are a chance to retell and hopefully upgrade a previous story idea. But does the new episode always get it right? That's exactly what we're going to talk about in this live stream series called Double Take. Now let's start the show. Hello and welcome to the Savage Stream, the weekly live stream where we talk all things Star Trek. And today we are continuing our series called Double Take, where we look at least 2 different episodes of Star Trek and compare, contrast, and find out who did it better. Today, we are comparing an episode from The Next Generation with an episode of Voyager. And the first episode is called A Matter of Perspective. And that's the episode where Riker is accused of killing this one's husband because he had the hots for, because he has the hots for her. And then we are comparing it with Voyager's Post Facto, which is an episode where Tom Paris is accused of murder for killing this guy because he was hot for his wife. So we're going to compare and contrast, find out who did it better. First, I'll summarize both episodes, and then I have 3 kind of major categories to compare them with. The first category is like ambiance. So that's set deck and that's alien makeup. The second category is character development, like how satisfying was that? And the third category is just plot, like the overall storyline. How is it told? How is it constructed? I also wanted to put in the category of just like enjoyable, like which one did I enjoy more? But then I thought, not only is that subjective, as they all are, to be fair, but in addition, these other 3 categories are what makes something enjoyable for me. Maybe not so much set deck and makeup. That's something I just like love to see and geek out about. But the character development and the plot, whichever one is like juicier or more satisfying, is usually my more favorite episode. Anyways, without further ado, let's go ahead and get to the first episode. Hello if you're watching live. Hello if you're watching on the replay. If you're on the replay, there will be timestamps below so you can skip ahead at any time. So let's get started by looking at a little summary of the first episode. Season 3, Episode 14, A Matter of Perspective. Riker is accused of murdering Dr. Apgar so he could steal his wife while visiting a research station on Starfleet business. The crew uses the holodeck to reenact witness testimonies and quickly discover that some testimony outright contradicts others. Troy senses that each person is telling their version of the truth, so her special abilities are not super helpful here. Surprisingly, Geordi discovers that Dr. Apgar accidentally killed himself while trying to murder Riker. Yeah, this whole situation was messy. So this episode, I don't remember how I felt the first time I saw it. Let me know what you think in the comments or in the chat. If you remember the first time you saw this episode. And if you do you remember your first impressions? Like, did you really like it the first time you saw it and you liked it more each time you saw it after that on the replay, or vice versa? Or was this so nondescript that you don't even recall the first time you saw it? I don't totally remember my reaction the first time seeing A Matter of Perspective, but a couple of things that I thought were really neat. I really liked how they used the holodeck to recreate the situation. I thought that was fun. I really like the kind of Groundhog's Day vibe whenever episodes do that, whenever they do the same thing over and over and over, but they show it from different perspectives. I always get a kick out of that. So that's what this was. And that was kind of fun, is that we were seeing the same set, the same situation, the same home, and we were seeing different people's perspective of the event. So I thought that was interesting. We had like a trial situation, which we do see quite a bit in Trek. We see a lot of court episodes, but they're always a little different. Each one has their own flavor. So I thought that was neat. Some of the things I did not like about this episode, several things. Oh, another one that I liked about the seeing things from different perspectives. What was so interesting is that Riker's recollection of the events and the widow's recollection of the events were so different, but they both had the same elements. So basically, Geordi and Riker were investigating Dr. Apgar's experiments, whatever his scientific thing was that he was doing. He was creating something. I think I may be getting this mixed up with that time loop episode from We'll Always Have Paris, but I think he was creating something for the Federation. I think. Correct me if I'm wrong in the chat. And Riker and Geordi were like helping or something, and they were having dinner there, and they stayed the night, or at least Riker did, in like a spare room for some reason. And after dinner, Riker and the widow, whose name I'm blanking on, were both like in his bedroom talking as one does, as a married person does. They just go into the bedroom of their guest and close the door and have a little chitty chat. And his recollection was that she was coming on to him. Her recollection is that he was forcing himself onto her. But in both versions, the husband walks in on them and is like, aha, I knew it all along. And in one version, he like knocks Riker down on the ground. In the other version, Riker knocks him out on the ground. Whatever. That was kind of their perspectives. Then we have a perspective from the research assistant, who didn't see that part because she didn't spend the night, but she saw the interactions like out in the lab. And so she had her own opinions about what she thought was going on between them or whatever. But I just thought it was really interesting, like how they could both remember things so differently, They both remember they were in his quarters after dinner, which is already kind of shady, but okay. And then what happened there totally changed. Now, I wonder if their recollections would have been more similar if Dr. Akbar hadn't been murdered, right? If he didn't die. I wonder if their recollections would have been a little bit more the same. But in any case, that was kind of neat seeing all that. Now, stuff that I didn't like, a lot of stuff I didn't like. I didn't like seeing Riker as the type of person who would force himself on someone, because that just doesn't really match with who we've seen him to be. He is definitely a ladies' man, definitely likes to enjoy new worlds and new civilizations and new cultures. Absolutely. But it always seems voluntary. If you remember the episode, what is this episode called? I want to call it like Bad Blood or something. I don't know. It was that episode with Yuta, the woman who he disintegrated with the phaser and she just like turned into ashes or whatever. In that episode, the high leader, who was Yuta's boss, like sent her to him as some kind of gift or favor or something, because she had noticed that he was making googly eyes at her the whole time they were with the delegation. And so she comes to his quarters and she's like, well, my boss said I should come and spend the night. And Riker's just like, oh, you were like ordered to come here? I don't want that. I wanted this to be like a voluntary thing, like a thing you wanted to do. And she was like, oh yeah, no, I wanted to. Oh, the Vengeance Factor. Thank you. It wasn't called blood anything. I think it was because it was like a blood. What was what was it? What am I thinking of, Grace? Whatever. The word blood is in the title of like their vendetta against one another. Anyways, blood feud. That's what it is. A blood feud. So in the Vengeance Factor, that's what happened. And Riker was like, no, I wanted this to be a voluntary thing. Like, I'm into you. Are you into me? Because if you're not into me, I don't want you just to be sent to my room, And she's like, no, like I'm into you too. Sure. So that scene alone and everything else we've ever seen from Riker makes me feel like he's the kind of person who invites volunteers. I do not think, and Nadia, I think you and I disagree on this, I do not think Riker is above making out with a married woman, especially if their arrangement in that marriage is such that it's like an open marriage or like they don't really mind. I think he'd be like, okay, cool. I don't know if he'd ask too many questions. Like, hey, is this cool with your husband if we make out? I don't know if he would ask too many questions, but I feel like if a married woman came onto him, he'd be like, she kissed me, dude. Like, I could see him saying that. Like, she kissed me. I don't know if I could see him actively pursuing someone who's with someone else. That seems a little tacky, but I could definitely see him being like, okay, I mean, she came on to me and that's what happened. And I was just like, no, it's not right. You're married or something like that. But I could see them having a kiss. One way or another, I could see a kiss happening. But what I can't see is him like having this married woman in his quarters and I think locking the door or something and then like blocking it and trying to like pin her down and all of this crazy stuff that just is not his personality, right? So that seemed a little bit slanderous. But that was her recollection. That's what she remembered. She remembered being manhandled and she remembered him like beating the crap out of her husband. That's what she remembers. And then Troy, like I said in the little video clip, her special ability was not super helpful in this episode. So I didn't love that. I felt like, what was the point of having an empath in this trial? What was even the point? Because she was like, I sense everyone's telling the truth. Okay, well, thank you, human lie detector. That was like, we did not even need her in the room in that case, because we're back at square one trying to figure out what actually happened here. So I didn't love Troy's auxiliary-ness. I feel like if you're going to have her and you're going to play up the empath thing, have her use it in some way, like have it be crucial to not even crucial. It doesn't have to be central to the storyline because the story wasn't about her, but have it be like meaningful to the story in some way. And it just wasn't. And I feel like that's my complaint about Counselor Troy from like seasons 1 through 4 or something like that. It's just like, have her be, if you're gonna use this character, if you're gonna have this character in the scene, have her be a little more meaningful, which they did eventually do. And now I'm a big Troy fan. Anyways, I also didn't love, I thought this was weird. I didn't love how Riker didn't defend himself in this episode, right? Like he just like sat there stoically. I mean, he did tell his version of events in the recreation, but as everybody was saying all this stuff about him, he was just kind of like, And I just felt like that also didn't feel right in character, because Riker strikes me as a very passionate person who's very, like, wants to get their point across, wants to be heard. And so for him to just like sit there kind of stoically and be like, whatever, I'm on trial for murder, not a big deal. I thought that was weird. I thought it was a weird directorial choice. Okay, anyways, I want to jump into the second episode and then I want to compare the two. But before I keep going, I've seen a lot of stuff in the chat and I want to see if there's anything that I missed. Okay, so it looks like there's a lot that I missed. Oh, hello to everybody in the away team. Drop a colon, board colon in the chat. I love seeing all the green. Hello, hello, hello. Too bad Tom didn't grow a beard for his episode. That would have made all the difference. LOL, I knew Charisse would call out Deanna in this one. Yes, Charisse did. Because I wanted to, she was with Deanna Troy. They were always giving her random abilities. There's this episode, what's the name of this episode? This might not be season 1 though, but the episode, okay, it's gonna come to me, but it's the episode where the Shellyak comes to this colony of humans that landed on this really harsh planet, and they've been living there for, I don't know, like 20 years or something, 100 years, I don't even know how many years, and Starfleet didn't know they were there, and the Shellyak sends this message where they're like, get those humans off of our planet or else we're going to exterminate them when we come to colonize it in like 3 hours or whatever, 7 days, whatever it was some short time frame. And so they sent Data to go and try to convince these colonists to leave before they were all destroyed. So anyways, in the beginning, Picard was trying to learn the Shellyak language for some reason, because for some reason he had to, there was some ceremonial thing they had to do or something he had to do in their language, and so he's trying to learn. Anyways, in that scene, Deanna was like, she was like a linguist or something. She was like, no, you're putting the emphasis on the wrong part. Let's try again. She was his coach. She was his tutor. She was his tutor in how to speak this language, which was like, where did she pick this up? She learned this on Beta Set? Like, what is going on? And there was another episode where I feel like she was hypnotizing somebody. Maybe it was Barclay or something. I don't know. But they kept trying to give her special abilities that she could call upon in these one-off situations. And it's like, you already gave her such a cool special ability. She's an empath and also can read minds sometimes. So like, use that. And the only time they used that in season 1, other than talking to her mom in the really annoying episodes, was when Tasha Yar died and the tar monster was there. And she was like using her mental powers to talk to Riker and say, I love you. I'm trapped by the tar monster. And it's kind of like, okay, like it's season 1, okay. But like at this point, where are we at? Season 3. We're at season 3. Let's give Troy some more to do. Okay, I'm gonna hop off that soapbox for about 10 seconds. AF Kaplan says, frankly, I figured out the mystery of this episode about 20 minutes into it. How? How did you do that, AF Kaplan? How did you know that Apgar killed himself in the first 20 minutes? Because I did not know that until the episode revealed it. Watched it when it premiered. Samesies. I remember disliking it my first time because as a kid, I was not interested in relationship drama. That's fair. Okay, the Krieger Waves thing, this episode was that the other had the thing that caused like the multiple datas to happen. But I don't remember what that thing was called. I think it had a cool name too. Okay, Sela says, I thought it was an average episode first time I saw it. Yes, I agree, Mr. Captain. We've missed out on not having Lower Decks do this storyline. But who would they do it with? Yeah, who would they do it with? They would have to switch some stuff up. It'd have to be like Mariner or something. but Mariner's so antisocial. Boimler's so goofy. Like, who's the, I guess it'd be Ransom, but like, who cares? If Ransom gets in prison for like, who cares? Take Ransom away. He's a terrible first officer anyways. Nadia said, I always feel like Riker's version of events were more believable. I always do too. I always did too. And Blood Feud, yes, that's what I was thinking of. I always did too, and I don't know if that's because I know and like him, you know, like the personal connection to him more, or just because that really does seem like a more plausible series of events. DJ Magic says, honestly, by the time I watched it, I was like, Stargate did this better, and then later realized Voyager and another show did this trope as well. Yeah. This is like, it's a good storyline, or it's an interesting storyline at least. Okay, if Kaplan says it fell short, in my opinion. It was a setup, man. And yay, PS2 Chipper has gifted 5 memberships. So if you would like to be a member of the channel and are not yet, grab those in the chat while you can. And then drop a : so I know you're one of us, one of us. The Ensigns of Command, thank you. That name was not going to come to me. I was like, oh, it'll come to me. Like, it's on the tip of my tongue. That's not even what I was thinking. I would not have gotten that. Plot armor for Riker. And the Krieger wave. Thank you, Windgrace. Oh, that's interesting. PS2 Chipper's theory is that it's just a forgettable storyline, which is why they recycle it so much. I don't know why they recycle things so much. I think it's just, I don't know if they're good ideas or because they're bad ideas and they just want to try it again. I don't really mind. I enjoy it. Like I said, I like the Groundhog Day thing. So it's like, I would just hope that it gets better every time. That'd be my only request. Yes, I'm seeing : Chronoton : love it. Okay, now let's talk about the second episode, which is the Voyager episode. Season 1, episode 8, X Post Facto. Tom Paris is convicted of murdering a scientist named Tolan Wren. After, as punishment, he's forced to relive Tolan's final moments every 14 hours through a memory implant. Tuvok investigates these claims and, after a mind meld, discovers that the memories have been tampered. Wife conspired with a renowned doctor to kill her husband, blame Tom, and sneak government secrets to a sworn enemy who they were currently at war with. Yeah, this couple is... So again, we're doing double takes, so it's the same idea of a spouse that cheats and their partner dies, right? But in this case, we have this visual evidence of Tom committing this crime. And I haven't seen this episode in quite a while. So when I was reviewing it for this conversation, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about how they like, it starts out with this memory being played and it's all played in black and white. So that's how we know it's a memory, I guess. And it starts with this memory being played. And as the memory is being played, you see Tom on this couch and he keeps going, no, that's not how it happened. That's not what happened. And then like the memory keeps going and he's like, no. And at the end, he's like panting on his couch. And the doctor's like, the procedure has been successful. And it's like, dun, 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 dun. And you're like, what in the world is going on right now? But it's like, there's proof right there in this visual record that Tom was in fact guilty. So there's no holodeck trickery going on here. But Tom is like, but it never happened. Like that never happened. So it starts off kind of in the middle of the story. And then it unravels to find out, well, what did happen? What exactly is going on in this episode? This particular culture, this is how they punish anyone who commits murder. They have to relive their victim's final moments, the actual murder of their own victim, every 14 hours. And I don't know for how long. I don't know if it's for like a year or if it's for like the rest of their life. I don't totally remember the time frame. So let me know in the chat or in the comments if you remember, because I don't. But what I do remember is that because Tom is not human, it doesn't work on him the way it would on other people, like the way it would on their people, which I forget the name of that species, but the way it works on their people. So what's supposed to be like this reminder of what you've done, I guess, so that you don't ever forget that you killed someone? I'm not really sure. What's supposed to be this like just punishment for Tom is actually like destroying his brain because he has a human brain. So every time he has a flash, every 14 hours, it like makes it worse and worse. He starts having seizures and passing out, and it is literally killing him. And the minister, who's maybe like the president of the world, is like, yeah, he was convicted in a court of law. This is his punishment. If we remove that memory implant, the only other option is to kill him. This is why we introduced this memory implant option, and so it can be more humane or whatever. So basically, it's like between a rock and a hard place. Because he's already been found guilty, if they do remove the memory implants, they will murder him. If they leave the implant, it will murder him. All for something he didn't do. Now, what's different about this versus the previous episode is Tom knew she was married and was so down for it, was so down. So in this case, I forget what Tom and Harry were doing. I think they needed help repairing something. Maybe they crash landed. Again, I don't remember the context or why they ended up here, but they ended up at these people's home, and they stayed the night. Maybe they were waiting for Voyager to come pick them up or something. I don't know. If you remember the context, let me know in the chat or let me know in the comments. But in any case, they stayed at this place overnight, so similar to Riker's situation. But Tom kind of had the hots for the wife the whole time. And at one point in the episode, when Kim and Paris are talking to each other, Harry's just like, because Tom said something like, he said it's your fault. He said, Harry, this is all your fault. And Harry's like, how is this my fault? And he's like, because you're supposed to be my conscience. You're the conscience I never had. You should have told me, the right from wrong in this situation or something. And Harry was like, if I was in your situation, I would have run far away from that whole thing. Like, I would not have gone near that woman. And Tom was like, it will be you someday. You're going to see her and you're going to know from the first minute that it's wrong, but you won't be able to do anything about it. And it's like, bruh, this is why you were found guilty. This right here. Like, you knew it was wrong and you're like, well, there's nothing I can do. The only thing I can do is make out with this married woman. Mm-hmm. Okay, but then that has consequences. In this case, all of these charges were trumped up, but you can imagine being in a scenario like, what if husband was crazy? Like, he could have pulled out a phaser or some kind of electricity whip from the Ferengier, who knows what, and taken you out, and everybody would have been like, yeah, that's what happens. You know what I mean? So anyways, this is just Tom being Tom. But that's a big difference between Tom and Riker, where I feel like Riker would not say no to someone coming on to him. Tom was like, yes. Like, Tom was going out of his way to be like, ooh, I like her, and she's giving me eyes, and I'm giving her eyes. And I guess same thing. They were chatting after dinner, having drinks or something. I don't know where husband was. Maybe he was not home. But she gave Tom some like tea, some soothing tea or whatever. And it turns out she had put some kind of drugs in the tea. So then he got knocked out. And then the doctor who implanted the memory in that first place, like that dude, that was the co-conspirator. So when she knocked Tom out, the doctor came over and they were making out. And all those memories were what was actually implanted in the victim's mind. But they had digitally altered it so that instead of it looking like the doctor, it looked like Tom, looking like the alien doctor looked like Tom. So this had so many more layers just as far as this whole setup goes, right? It wasn't an accident. It wasn't some jealous husband who was trying to kill Riker and accidentally killed himself. In this case, it was like a whole thing. And you know what? As I was going through the episode, just like for this conversation, I was like, I see what they were trying. They just expected some alien vessel to come by and some guy to happen to stay at their apartment, and like all of these things to happen all together so that they can pull off this plan seems like a huge coincidence. So I'm guessing it was a crime of opportunity, or they had this plan from the beginning and they were just gonna they were going to blame some other person. And then when Tom came along, they were like, oh, this is perfect. Because, like I said in that summary, it gets worse. It wasn't just, I'm going to cheat on my spouse and then kill him and then blame it on some random dude I just met yesterday. It's also that when they implanted those memories into Tom's mind, they also implanted some like government secrets. So that when Tom got on the shuttle with, could capture the shuttle, kidnap Tom, take the memory implant out of his brain, and then get all the government secrets that were stuck in the memory. That's like so many layers. That seems like the worst plan because there's so many points of failure, and it all depends on some random alien who happens to come by, and then whose people want him back so that you can send him on this shuttle to get caught. So there's just like a lot of layers going on here. Things that I liked. I liked seeing Tom and Harry and just kind of their banter. I liked seeing that this was totally different from last time where Riker had his version and What's-Her-Face had her version. In this one, it was like Tom's version was pretty spot on with Wife's version until he passed out from the tea. Like the murder part was like, I don't remember that part. Everything else though, that totally happened. I chose for that to happen. Like I was a part of that. So that was different. I love seeing Tom and Harry. Whenever I see them together, it just makes me happy. We got the like Tuvok as the investigator trope. That's always fun. I like when Tuvok goes around and he's either like a private detective or he's a lawyer. I don't know. I just get such a kick out of seeing Tim Russ being like, well, the logical reason that this happened and that. I love his Sherlock Holmes thing, basically. So that I super loved. They even did it like a typical whodunit where they had that, what do they call that scene? Not the ballroom scene. They call it something, but it's the scene where you call all of the potential criminals / witnesses, you call all of them into one room, and then you go like one by one, and you go, it couldn't have been you, it could have been you, couldn't have been you. Aha, it was you, you know? So they even did that at the end where Tuvok was like, I know who the murderer is, but I need everyone to collect at the victim's house before I can say who it was. You know, like that's just fun. It's just good times. And then I like how he peeled apart the whole puzzle to figure out who it really was and the big reveal. And then I was just like, this couple is crazy. This couple is dangerous, like the wife and the doctor. And I don't have high hopes for what's going to happen to them in their future, because are they going to have another doctor implant the memories of the other guy's death in the doctor's brain? Or are they just going to kill them both for treason and just have done with it? Are they going to implant that memory of him being killed in both of their brains, because they were both accomplices? So I don't know what happens next, but that was super interesting. Okay, I'm going to check the chat, and then I'm going to compare these two episodes on our 3 different categories. Hold on. Let me see if I can clean up this image. No, I cannot. Okay. Seeing if I can make this a little bit cleaner, but nope, it's going to be grainy. Sometimes it's like that. Okay, let's see. So Sela says that she loved the strange feather hair on the aliens. I did not love the feather hair. I thought it was an interesting hat or something, but I didn't. It just, sometimes when they have like hair coming out of other things, it just weirds me out. So it's like I wanted to love it and I didn't love it, but I wanted to. A.F. Kaplan says the concept of the video showing Tom Paris commit the crime foreshadows how AI can be used to deceive. Truth becomes relative, disturbing. And Nadia says, interesting point of view. Yeah, I guess so. In this case, the memories were supposedly pulled from the victim after death, which is already crazy. Matter of fact, there was this Black Mirror episode that was just, well, I was going to say just like this, but nothing like this. It was like horrible. It was terrifying. But it was a really good episode. I think it's called Crocodile Tears or something like that. And it was this idea of everything everyone sees is recorded all the time and stored in their brain. And after they die, especially if it's a violent death, you can like hook this device. This is Black Mirror. This is not Star Trek. But you can hook this device to their brain and you can download their last few things that they saw. And then you could literally see like who killed them. You could see what happened. And basically this Black Mirror episode starts off with that premise, and the storyline just like, it just keeps getting darker and darker and darker and darker until you're at the end of the episode and you're just like horrified. And it has nothing to do with AI. So to your point, A.F. Kaplan, of being like AI can be used to deceive and can be like used as a weapon and all of this. Yeah, people can also do that without AI, because people are kind of the source of that sort of thing. And so in that episode, it's just like the people are just so had like it's like a good person or a good person who, somebody who thinks they're a good person who ends up being like the worst person in the history of people. And yeah, it's a really hard episode to watch. But this was not nearly that dark. Even the murder is pretty PG. Like he sees the knife sticking out of his chest and then he just kind of falls over, and that's it. It's a very like blowing the curtain situation. It's not bloody and gory, it's way more my style, basically, to be this level of dark, I guess. PS2 Chipper says, I think Voyager did it better. It had more layers and elements of terror. Sela says, I think they took advantage of the opportunity with Tom. Yeah, they had to, because there was just too much going on for this to ever be an actual plan. They must have just called each other and been like, look, there's this guy staying at my house. He's giving me the winky eye. I've got an idea. And they just put it together really quick. So this is Hatch Box, maybe? Their position. Post Facto is an atrociously bad episode that killed the novelty of the Delta Quadrant, setting and established with certainty that Voyager would be a very stale, bland TNG retread up until season 4. See, that is interesting. I disagree. I agree and I disagree. I agree that there are a lot of copy and paste episodes in Voyager from TNG, but there are a lot of copy paste episodes in TNG from TOS, and there are a lot of copy paste episodes in DS9 from TOS. This is just a thing that Star Trek does. So in the old shows, I don't know why. Maybe it was paying homage. I'm not sure. In the new shows, it's absolutely paying homage. The new shows copy and paste all kinds of stuff from the old shows, but it's more to honor the old shows and to tie in the canon and stuff like that. I don't know what was going on back in the day, if that was a consideration or if it was just because the same writers were on all these shows, so they had similar ideas. But I actually love Voyager, and I love TNG, and I love DS9. And so far, I'm loving the first season of TOS. And even though there are lots of copy-paste stories, character tropes that are similar, we've got the ladies' man Riker and the ladies' man Paris, we've got, and the ladies' man Kirk, even we've got the ladies' man Bashir, that's a thing, right? Even though there are copy-paste tropes, and Trek has a lot of tropes, I don't think that automatically makes the show, one of this Trek series, stale, at least not in my opinion or in my experience. And like I said, seeing a show copy and pasted, seeing the whole episode done again, I expect it to be done even better. So I don't feel like, oh man, I've seen this already. I feel like, okay, let's see what else you can do then. Take it up a notch. Yeah, I agree. I love Tuvok being Tuvok. Yeah. When Grace says, knowing Star Trek, they'll probably shove the memories into a memorial and broadcast it to passing ships. That's so funny. Exactly, the weird-looking dog is the savior in the end. Okay, yeah, so it is called Crocodile Tears. Yeah, the guinea pig. Sela says, I enjoyed the dialogue between Tuvok and the woman when he was investigating. Yeah, she was a cool customer. Nadia says, my boy Tuvok was investigating a murder every other week through the series. He was. And you remember that time when he was investigating himself? He was like, who could have done this? Who could have been there? The only one with this clearance and access is me. Wait a minute. Yeah, that was actually not a great episode, but I do like seeing Tuvok being Tuvok. Yeah, exactly. Lots of cross-pollinating between the shows. When Grace says Tuvok versus Moriarty. Ooh. Moriarty is a villain with the ability to beat Data. Therefore, Moriarty would probably kill Tuvok before Tuvok finished the investigation. I logic, therefore I am. Yep, I would agree with Nadia. I would agree. Okay, so now that we have kind of the backstory of both of these episodes and what happened and some of the things that I love and don't love, let's break them down on these 3 different categories. So the first is set deck and alien makeup. It's always a little tricky comparing 2 shows because as time goes on, the special effects always get better. So then I feel like it's not fair. It's not fair to compare TOS to TNG, for example, because that's 30 years of special effects momentum that I'm comparing. However, TOS had some fun stuff. So I would say for TNG, we had the holodeck, which is always cool. And then they got to kind of turn it into different things. It was like the holodeck is the dining room. Now the holodeck is the bedroom. Now the holodeck is the science lab. So I thought it was kind of fun that they were doing different sets, but in one space. And in Voyager, we really only see I guess that opening scene where he's in the doctor's office maybe counts as a new scene, but we pretty much see sick bay and Voyager and the bridge, and then we see the house of the victim a lot. Those are kind of our two main spaces. I don't think it's as creative. I don't think the house is as interesting as seeing all the different locations inside of Dr. Apgar's house slash office slash lab or whatever. And so there's that. So I do think that the set stuff is more interesting in TNG. Now the alien makeup, I like both of them. I think the alien makeup for the Voyager episode is very simple, right? The most extravagant thing is the big feather thing, the big feather hat that they all have, or maybe the feathers are their hair, or maybe the feathers are their skin. I was never quite clear on that, but that's like the most dramatic thing is their feather cap. And then in TNG, it's like a full-on face prosthetic. It's like ridges and eyebrows and ears and the whole thing. So I would say that TNG has better makeup. Like I like that style better. It's a little more elaborate. It's not as pretty, right? Because it's like got all these weird lines, but I think it's more interesting. So I think I will have to give TNG the W on that one when it comes to kind of the ambiance, the set deck, the makeup, stuff like that. I think TNG's was more interesting. Okay, the second category is character development. How did the characters develop? So I feel like in TNG, did we see any character development? Did you? I didn't see any. Did you see any? It just seemed, it was like character devolvement, if anything, like devolving, because we just see Riker being really stoic and not like him. In the playback scenes, we see Riker being really aggressive and not like him. And at the end of the day, it's just like, Geordi's like, I figured it out. Dr. Apgar did it. And everyone's like, oh, okay. And that's kind of the end. There's no like lesson learned here. Nobody gets closer because of it. Or, it's not like Troy and Riker are like, okay, now we've learned this, or now we realize something about our relationship, or now you've realized something about yourself and how you need to be different. I don't know. There was nothing like that. And don't get me wrong, I do not need a moral of the story at the end of every episode. I find that really patronizing sometimes. But as far as character development goes, I didn't really get that juicy satisfaction at the end. Like I'm thinking of the episode, The Drumhead, where is she an admiral? Where the admiral comes and she's doing this like big witch hunt and she's trying to figure out like why the warp core had an explosion or why there was an explosion in engineering. And she's trying to figure out like who was there. And this guy is half Cardassian or Romulan or whatever he was. And, he must be behind it, all of that. And then Picard gives one of his Picard speeches and is just like, you're not treating people with respect and kindness and and all this stuff. And at the end, you're just like, whoa, he just laid it all out. It was Admiral Satie. That name just came to me. And she was just like, how dare you? And some other admiral who was there was just like, yeah, you're right. She's lost it. We need to take her off this case immediately. She needs a break. This is like beyond capacity. And that episode, even though it was just like a big witch hunt and you see a lot of different people sitting in the hot seat trying to defend themselves, we do see a I don't know if I want to say growth or change, but we do see a distinction in Admiral Satie from the beginning of the episode when she first shows up to the end. We see kind of this revelation in her of like, oh, maybe I've gone too far, or at least I've gotten caught going too far, right? And I think that's what makes that episode really good. So all that to say, we could have some kind of character development of somebody somewhere in this episode. And I didn't see that for the TNG episode. It was interesting. It was cool. Like I like special effects, but I don't think there was anybody who grew or developed or any relationships that were changed in any way because of the situation. Okay. Now looking at Voyager, I would say that there is more because we do see Tom kind of reflecting on his actions. Again, I don't know if I can say growth because it's not like he regretted those actions. He just was like, oh yeah, I did that, but he had a conversation that was like, I've kind of made my bed and now I have to lay in it. And that was good because the whole thing about Tom is that he's like this bad boy and, doesn't follow the rules and all of these things. And so I think him getting caught up because he doesn't follow the rules yet again. I mean, when we first meet him in the beginning of the show, he was at a pedo colony. So getting caught up again because of his choices, I think it's not necessarily growth or development, but it's something. It's interesting. Now, do we see anybody else actually like grow or develop or change, or any other relationships change? Not really. I mean, we see Tuvok being Tuvok. Tuvok does a mind meld, but they're not like better friends afterwards. It's not like Tuvok is like, now I get you, Tom. I really see where you're coming from, or something. It was just kind of like, okay, now I know what really happened. So there's not that much development or growth there either. However, there is more. I think there's more. So I'm gonna give the W to Voyager as far as character development. And then our last category is plot. So just the overall telling of this story, who told it better. And they're kind of, they're different. They're the same idea, told slightly differently. But I feel like, so, okay, two things. With TNG, the reveal for me, because unlike AF Kaplan, I did not catch on it within 20 minutes of what really happened and how it really happened. So I was really shocked in the end when Geordi was like, I figured it out. I know exactly what happened. And then when he recreated it, I was like, oh my gosh, like that was totally, Dr. Apgar was trying to kill Riker and make it look like a transporter accident. What a terrible thing to do. So because with the thing, with the beam bouncing back and blowing up and killing him, it's kind of like his just desserts, because he was actually trying to kill someone. Riker was just like, beam me back. I'm getting out of here. Like, I don't want to be here anymore. There's too much drama. And he was the one trying to be sneaky and slick and do something terrible on the side. So he kind of got what he deserved. He got the bullet that he was trying to send to somebody else. I thought that was really interesting. And I liked the irony of that ending. That was really satisfying. Even though at the end it was just like, okay, I guess Riker's innocent. Everybody can go home now. That might not have been as satisfying, but finding out that twist was like a big reveal, I remember. And then in the Voyager episode, it was more like the Sherlock Holmes, like each person, each step is revealed for why I know who did it and how they did it, which I just love. Like, I personally love. I love Sherlock Holmes stuff so much. I've read all the stories multiple times. So I'm going to have to give it to Voyager, just because of my personal enjoyment of that sort of thing, of the slow reveal and the like pulling out the evidence. I really enjoy that. But I do think the reveal of Dr. Apgar was really exciting. Like, I didn't see that coming. I thought that was interesting. But yeah, so overall, Voyager is getting 2 out of 3. So I'm going to say that Voyager did it better. Do you agree or not? Let me know in the chat. Let me know in the comments. So I'm going to read the next few comments, and then we're going to close out and do something totally different next time. Okay, let's see. Let's see what we got. Be sure to grab a membership if you haven't already. Yes, Admiral Sati that character was so good and so believable. And in the beginning, you're literally like, oh wow, like she's such a good person. And by the end, you're like, oh wow, she's such a terrible person. And it was just such a great picture of humanity, right? That we have all these different aspects of us, and that even our most noble quests can sometimes turn into witch hunts and terrible things that we do because of our very strong beliefs that we need that there's something bigger and more important out there that kind of justifies whatever behaviors we're doing. Ooh, I like this PS2 chipper. Logic is the beginning of wisdom, not the end, Mr. Spock. Nadia says, I think the lesson in the TNG version is that people can truly believe their version of truth. And if that is, in fact, the lesson, then it explains Troy's presence and limitations in the episode. That is fair. That is fair. If the lesson is everybody has their own version of truth, then Troy couldn't say anything else but that, right? She can only literally espouse. Everyone has their own versions of truth. That's all she could say. Nadia, if I ever have even the slightest bit of wisdom, I'll let you know. AF Kaplan says, that's why that episode reminded me of Akira Kurosawa's Rashomon. There's a murder and multiple points of view as to what really happened. I don't know what that is, but it sounds like something I would like. Sela says, the use of the holodeck to illustrate the various points of view was fun. It was super fun, yeah. PS2 Chipper says, I like it when a character starts out as a dick and then ends with them being a dick, but you say, hey, I can work with that dick. So that's kind of like the Admiral and Pegasus, right? Where you're just like, wow. And then you're like, although in the end, I don't think we could work with him. In the end, he just gets court-martialed. But it's that idea of you're like, yeah, this is his character from the beginning to the end. Like he does not change. The character you see him in the beginning is the character he is in the end. There's no like big reveal. I like how the other character I'm thinking of is oh gosh, what was the guy in Chain of Command? What was that captain's name? Captain Jellicoe. How Jellicoe was also just like the worst, but he was the best man for the job. But man, like the worst for the Enterprise. That's not the captain that you want running that ship. But Jellicoe even comes back, and I mentioned this before, he comes back in Prodigy. So that character was so like impactful, I guess, that he even gets a cameo. He's still doing his thing. He's still working in Starfleet. So apparently people like him. So that's a thing. Yeah, PS2 Chipper says I can work with Jellicoe. I can work with a lot of people. I'm sure I could work with Jellicoe for a limited amount of time. I could have been on the Enterprise during the mission, but like whatever ship he's normally on, that would not be the ship for me. Okay, well, that's it. We're done. Please join us next week, same time, same channel, for whatever the heck we're going to be talking about then. Thank you so much for coming. For those of you who came live, thank you so much for those of you who are watching on the replay, and I will see you next time.